Hey everyone, it's now episode 46 of our Enigmatica 6 expert playthrough, and we have an urgent need, and you can see in the background I have started to work on that need. So let's go ahead and take a peek down here. We have our drones and they are processing everything just fine. There's still fuel in here, it's great. I added some andesite pedestals for them to come and rest on. Now, we could swap these pedestals out for charging stations, and then they would basically always be full on charge. Also, hey, I'm going to take my maggot off. The urgent need we have, though, if we come over here, this is our input chest. I have upgraded this to a diamond chest, and, yeah. Our urgent need is that we are totally full. In fact, our guy who's picking stuff up over there, I'm sure his inventory is probably full as well, or almost full. Once it gets full, this plant gatherer, I think he will just stop. So, we need a location to store all of our goodies. This is the beginnings of our storage. Okay, now these here, they are silos. So a silo can hold a lot of items, and all you do is it's just some iron sheet metal and then treated wood fence. It's actually pretty simple to make them. And then you just take a engineer's hammer. This is a morphing tool, by the way. I don't know if I've ever shown this off. But when you look at different mods, it will change to the right tool. And so this is actually a create block, so it's changed to the wrench from create. But all you do, click, done. Sounds like there was a skeleton who had spawned in there. This is our sort of big external outdoor warehouse, right? Where we have all these silos. Now, each silo can only hold one type of item, and so we're gonna get them slotted in. And right now I have an input chest over here, but this is sort of temporary until we build a bigger, like, I'm gonna say like some kind of big barn over here, maybe. But this is going to be expandable. I think we might be expanding out the back and the side because this here is only 10 unique items and we are already producing about 10 items over there. The way that these silos work is the top middle block is actually the input, and then on the bottom, this is where you have your output. Now, you cannot come to these and manually pull items out. There's no way to do that, and there's no way to, like, manually put them in either. So they're fully for automation purposes, right? And that's why we have our pretty pipe system hooked up to the top. We will eventually have some kind of system hooked up to the bottom in order to pull items out. Now, another thing that I've been thinking about is we can have comparators on each one of these, right? And the comparator will output a signal based on how full the whole thing is. And if it's full, maybe we turn off, maybe we send a signal somehow to say, hey, stop harvesting because we don't need any more. As far as I'm aware, there's no way to like void the items that go in here. We could set up our trusty trash can with like a low priority module on the end of the pretty pipe system and then void them that way. But why waste the fuel on the drones if these are full? If we hook a computer up to the bottom of this silo, we do get some options here. It's kind of limited, right? We have this get contents. So if we do this, silo.getContents, we can see the count. The damage, I don't think this means anything. The max damage, again, I don't think this means anything. And then we have the item type that's in there. So we could use this, right? We could connect the system up and we could monitor with a computer screen or something like that how many peppers we have. It would know it's peppers and it would know the count. The unfortunate bit is I do wish that the output on that get contents would tell you what the maximum capacity is. According to the book, it's like 400 and some thousand stacks or something like that, which is a lot, but I don't have the exact number. And I've seen with like the Mekanism tanks that the amount in the book was not correct, and that might be tweaked for the expert pack. So that's why we might end up using the comparator system in order to get a fill percentage. And then once we're finally full, I guess I could hard code it in a computer system. The next thing that needs to happen is we need to have a way to get the items from our field into our silos, and I think we're going to use another drone for that. So we're going to quickly take this GPS tool and program it to this chest. Again, this is probably going to change, but here we are. Guess I got to shift right click it. Okay, coordinates set, and then we're going to go ahead and set another set of coordinates on our input chest over there. We could, of course, have our plant gatherer also just, you know, pick up the items and then drop them straight in over there. But I'm kind of feeling like having a separate drone for that task might work out better in the long run, but we'll find out. This is the first iteration of what our crop hauler drone is going to look like. It's going to just import from the diamond chest in the field, and then it's going to export into the spruce chest over at our collection system, and then I'm going to have it fly all the way back to the diamond chest right in front of it, and then go to standby. For the beginning, this is absolutely never going to go on standby. I mean, it's going to go standby for a second, and then pick more stuff up and leave. The crop hauler itself also now has 8 inventory upgrades and 2 more speed upgrades. These upgrades are something that we're going to want to automate because they are very handy. But as soon as I stick this down, it should go into operation. Go ahead and take a look. We can see it filled up a whole bunch of items. Still going. Oh, it teleported. I think I may have used the wrong go-to? No, I didn't use a go-to. I can't believe it teleported. The mod might have something to do with like, hey, if I need to go X blocks, it's going to teleport instead of fly, because that is kind of a long distance, right? It's not a super long distance by any means, but let's see if it comes back. Well, I have not seen it come back. You know, I have a feeling that by using a teleport move, it exhausted a lot more of its internal pressure buffer. Let's go see if we can find it sitting on the ground over here or something like that. Or maybe this whole area wasn't fully loaded in. Look at that. Once we got close enough, it sure did show up, and then it teleported back away. Here it is again. So our crop hauler is already on the repressurizing station. It's at 1.8 bars. It definitely used a lot of pressure going back and forth. I'm a bit surprised. That must be right out of, like, simulation distance, and that's why we didn't ever see it come back when we were standing over here. So another thing that we should think about, we are definitely getting way more of these items than we need, right? Since we are getting so many extra items, we don't really need these drones to run as often as they're doing. We should probably take a cue from this cumin farmer, where it has a 5-minute delay. Why don't we set everything to be like a 10-minute delay? So every 10 minutes, listen to that crop hauler sound. So every 10 minutes, it'll go out and harvest the field, and then our, not pepper farmer, our crop gatherer, plant gatherer 1 will go and pick them up, put them in the box, and then crop hauler can send them off. Okay, so our crop hauler has come back, but check out its pressure. It's now at negative 0.2 bar, so it has exhausted all its pressure just to teleport from there back to here. So this is absolutely going to be a problem. I'm not sure if we set up one of these pressure stations over there, if that would alleviate it, or if we need to do something a little fancier for transporting those goods. So for now, I just have the crop hauler, instead of stopping at that chest, it now stops here and waits for 1 minute between operations, and then it's going to go back over and pick things up again. And all of the other drones are now having a 10-minute wait between operations. We can already see that our chest is mostly cleared out. So this is good enough for now. Of course, we are not done, right? We haven't actually automated the vegetable curry just yet, but the next thing I want to work on is still more farm field things. So if we look at these mango habanero wings, they need mangoes. They also need habaneros, which we already have going. We also need, in the plum pudding, plum. So these both come off of trees, and so we're going to try planting a few of them and see if we can get a drone to harvest those. Next thing on my list is milk. So we have a couple different options for getting the milk. One of probably the main ways that you could get milk is a cow in a jar. This is not too hard to make. You just need a milk jar, you put a cow above it, and then you drop an anvil on it, and it smashes it into the milk jar, and then it just endlessly produces milk that you can pump out. So we will probably just make a few of these, but maybe we'd put them in the barn in the back. Another option, of course, we could use drones for this as well, because the The drones could detect the entity of a cow, go up to it, and then right-click on it with a milk bucket, and then take the milk bucket to a tank and deposit it. Right, so it is possible to automate with drones as well. This is kind of our whole drone area, so we may do the drones, but the milk bucket, or the cow in a jar, is probably the more efficient approach. So, unfortunately, it was right after that last clip where I was off doing something else. I think I was over in the apiary building. I was actually trying to restock things in the diesel generator and all that kind of stuff, and the game crashed out of nowhere. Rebooting didn't work. I tried multiple times. I actually even tried changing some configs. I was trying to get something changed in the chunk loader. But in the error logs, this was the problem. Okay, so if we come over and take a peek, right? I mean, we're not going to be able to see anything here. And I'm not entirely sure how much I've missed. We might have to reprogram the drones. The silo and the pipes, the pretty pipes, this is actually where the error was happening. It was very specifically on a pipe trying to put an item insert into the silo. It was called on the insert item or insert entity or something like that method on the silo that was failing. So, right, my suspicion, we open this up, my suspicion is this whole section was somehow... I mean, it's not somehow. It was definitely not being loaded. If I was all the way over at the apiary, right, which is down here, this wouldn't have been loaded, okay? But because it's not loaded, I wouldn't have thought there should have been any interaction happening here. But it's possible that these pretty pipes might actually work in unloaded chunks. And it's possible that maybe the drones also can work in unloaded chunks, right? And if that's the case, maybe when I was away, the drone delivered stuff here, even though it was unloaded, because it moved here, maybe it loaded it just long enough for an item to make it into the pipe. It tried to enter into the silo, but the silo was not loaded and would not work in an unloaded chunk. That is my suspicion. So I think, right, we can probably solve our issue, our crashing issue, if I were to just chunk load these two chunks. So that's what we're going to do right now. I believe I showed this off before, but this is easy. Hit M to open up your map. You can come in here. You need to claim your chunks, and then after you claim them, you hold Shift and you click again, and it will force load them. Do note that down here in the bottom left, force loaded is at 45 out of 500, but the game defaults at 25 chunks that you're able to force load. So I edited a config file to increase that up to 500. I do not plan to fully chunk load our whole crop area, which is probably going to be like this whole section. It might even come down here, who knows, depends on how many crops and how many different things we try to farm out here. So hopefully this alone will be enough. Now, I do note that our input chest is actually not in the chunk loaded section, so we might want to move this as well. However, for now, we're just going to see if this works, and I'm going to go about my business again in a different area, and hopefully I don't crash again. So right over here, we now have our plum, mango, and apple farm. These are the simple farming trees, right? And they just grow the crop on their leaves. I could right-click this and harvest. However, I do have a new drone set up to do this. There is a problem though, but just to show, right, there is a full-grown mango, there's a few full-grown plums, and then over here, we do also have a few full-grown apples. When I place this down, it should look for plums first, and then mangoes, and finally apples. Once it's done, it will go around and pick up all the items and put them in that chest. From there, it'll come over and then sit on this pedestal for about 10 minutes before it ever tries to do it again. So when I put this down, let's see what happens. It's thinking. So what I believe it's doing right now is scanning all the blocks, and it didn't find anything to harvest. Well, why is that, right? There are definitely things to harvest here, but it just didn't do anything. We're going to take it and try it again. I'm just going to place it in a different spot. I don't think that matters. Nothing. However, this is different behavior than what I was expecting, because I had actually seen it correctly harvest a few of the apples. See, we already have 3 in there, and those 3 were fully harvested by this farmer, so I am a bit confused on how this is working. However, it has never harvested the plums or the mangoes. So, unfortunately, our plan here for an automated orchard, I think is not gonna work. I've messed around with this a bunch. I can't get it to work, and honestly, I don't understand why. I did actually see it harvest a few apples, but I haven't been able to get it to harvest it again, even after some modifications. If you have any ideas for why my drone isn't working here, let me know. Otherwise, I think what we're going to do, if we take a quick peek again at the thing here, we need mangoes for the habanero wings. Now remember, we need 60 sequences, so we need 60 of these items, so we need 60 mangoes, which isn't like a crazy amount, and we also need 60 plums. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to manually harvest them, and then we'll maybe come back and worry about the trees again another day. In light of the drone problems on the simple farming trees, let's go ahead and make these milk jars instead of trying to automate them with drones. I think this will just be a much simpler, compact system. All we should need to do is put these milk jars down here. Now, I am not sure at the moment. Will a cow be able to escape out of this? Will we need to drop our fence posts down? We're going to find out. Also, can I use a cow that happens to be damaged? I think the answer is yes. Let's go ahead and use some of the damaged cows. Now, all we should have to do is anvil, anvil, anvil. Super simple. The next item for our mango habanero wings that we need are cooked chicken wings. Well, you can easily get them by cutting them on a cutting board. In fact, this might be the only way to do it. If we take a quick peek, raw chicken wing, it does show here that there's only one tab, the cutting board. Now, the raw chicken, you could easily make a chicken farm. However, I did it this way. I used shepherd's honeycombs with some beeswax to make raw chicken. Amazing. In our small temporary automation facility, I have rerouted the power away from our belt system over to this. This is going to be how we make our builder's tea. So let's take a quick look. We have our 3 cow in a jar milk producing blocks, right? And they actually produce very fast. We're already up to almost 16 buckets of milk, and that's actually what we need. Exactly is 16 buckets. And we can see over here, I have 16 buckets of water ready, and this is where the milk's gonna go. So when we're ready, it's gonna pump it all out of here, and then we need to get leaves, and we're gonna drop it all in the basin. And what should happen, right, is it mixes it up, and then we need to set this here, I think, to probably be a very specific output. I don't know. We're gonna figure this one out. But what it's gonna do is it's gonna be able to put the builder's tea up into the spout, and then in here we have all 127, because that's how many we're making. And the reason we're making 127 is because it uses 16 blocks of each, and it's really easy to do 16 when you have a reservoir, since it fills up 16. But right, the bottles come out, the spout should deposit, and then our builder's tea created item should end up in this chest at the end. And in that time that we were just talking, we're now almost 18 buckets of milk. This is way more than we need. Fill. Empty. Okay, all we need now is 64 leaves. I now have our leaves ready. We're gonna go ahead and drop them all in. There they are. All we have to do is turn on the pumping of these things out. There we go. We can see water and milk filling up. Milk and water both at 1,000 millibuckets. Of course, we also have to provide our blaze burner some sort of heat. So here we go. Now, I did take out the pump out of this block real quick. I just wanted to see. We now have 1,000 builder's tea in there. Well, dang. It's pumping out the wrong things. We need to stop this. Check out our awesome milk buckets. Can we just put the milk right back in? Alright, this is turning out to be a massive pain. So what I did is I stopped the water and the milk from being able to go into here. And then, from there, I also had to take everything out of here. I cannot figure out a way to potentially come in here and set on this a filter just for the builder's tea. And in fact, right now, it should be pumping out, right? We have 1,000 millibuckets of builder's tea in here, and we have 500 millibuckets of builder's tea up here. All right, now I've set disallowed. Milk and water are now disallowed in the fluid extraction module. So theoretically, we should only allow builder's tea to go up in there. But we're not seeing any more builder's tea come out, which is a little strange to me. It could just be because this already has 500 millibuckets in there. Maybe it has to be totally empty before it'll allow any more liquid to go in. So we're going to go ahead and put in our glass bottles again. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not getting anything coming out, are we? I mean, thankfully, we're not getting water or milk coming out, though. This is very strange. When there's nothing in here, it will pull the builder's tea out, and the builder's tea will go in there, no problem. You watch, as soon as the milk and water are gone... Oh, and of course, because the milk and water, it only takes half of it, I can't get them to come out. Arg. This is a bit frustrating, and the full issue is probably that we're not using the create pipes. So maybe we should investigate that. I'll be right back. Okay, I think this is actually going to work now. So let's take a quick peek and see what I've done. And now it's actually really hard to get back here. We're going to try. So we now have a very rudimentary pipe system that takes it back over into the spout. But we have a very important item on the front here, a smart fluid pipe. And I actually put the builder's tea, like, finished item in the filter. So I think we should actually be pretty good now to just let this go. But of course, we will find out for sure. Builder's tea is now at... Yep, it's dropping, it's dropping. Here we go. Filling up. Wow. And look, I mean, this system is kind of slow too. It takes a bit to realize that it needs to pump the builder's tea out and everything. That's fine. We just need to get... Actually, we really only needed about 60 builder's tea. I just went overboard, so we'll have a few extras as well. But I'll get them all, and then we'll come back. Back to the Pretty Pipes item terminal. If we just connect, you know, a pipe to each of the bottom of one of these silos, we have access to our items. We're going to go ahead and pull out. It's 60 of each of these items. We need 60 ginger, 60 pepper, and 60 of the cumin seeds. And it's slow, right? We don't have, you know, any modules or the pressurizer or anything like that on the pipe, but it is actually useful as otherwise we don't really have a good way of pulling items out. Okay, and there is our 60 vegetable curry. So we have our builder's tea done, our vegetable curry done, and what's left are the mango, the plum, and the enchanted golden apples. In order to make the plum pudding, we're going to need 60 buckets of milk, or 60 milk bottles. The milk bottles are actually like 4 bottles is 1 bucket of milk, so we're going to go with the bottles. And we've just slightly changed this system, so if I just come over here, you should be able to put everything in here, and it's going to go right into our spout. We should just be able to fill up bottles pretty easily. With our builder's tea ready in slots 1 and 2, the vegetable curry, all 60 of it, in slot 3, the mango habanero wing, slot 4, and then our plum pudding in slot 5, all we need, finish this off, are the 60 enchanted golden apples, and we're not going to go for the potion approach, we are going to go for the honeyed apple arcane gold block approach. The honeyed apples, honestly, aren't that bad. We need 60 apples, and we only need 15, I think it is, like blocks of honey that we can melt down into liquid honey. And then we can just use our spout that we have set up, you know, in front of us here to make the honeyed apples. That part's not a problem. The big issue is going to be the arcane gold blocks. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at our crafting calculator, which I still use quite frequently. And here, right, we see that we are going to need, in order to get 240 arcane gold blocks, we need 2,160, I think, arcane gold ingots, which is a lot, and then another 1,000 enchanted ash. It's a lot of gold, it's a lot of redstone, a lot of bones, and then we also need a lot of soul shards. Soul shards are absolutely something that we should be automating. However, timing of this episode, we don't have enough time to devise a whole new room, building, or anything in order to get the automation set up, so I think I'm just going to go manually gather those. We want to use our little skeleton farm that we already have set up for our Eidolon brazier, right? Let's go ahead and make the spawner agitator, and we might remove this when we're done. But what this is going to do, right, is it's going to prevent the spawned entity from despawning when the player leaves the area, and also it'll keep spawning when you're not in the area. So we're going to get a whole bunch of skeletons ready and going, and then we're going to do our ritual, and we'll probably have to do this multiple times. But this should help. But then when we're finished, I don't know if we can just shut it off with a redstone signal. We can play around with that a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to remove the agitator and use it somewhere else. And let's also check on this. It turns out I've actually used one of these spawner agitators once already. You can, well, not really. You can sort of maybe make it out that there is one on our blaze farm. Well, the blaze spawner, right? This is not a farm for blazes, but for blazing blood. And that's just been going for a while, and we're now at 91,000 millibuckets of blazing blood, which is pretty good, I think. This could still be faster, right? We could probably speed up how fast they spawn. Right now, they only spawn one at a time, it seems like. But it is a nice passive generation. How many times will I get hit trying to put this spawner agitator on the spawner? Let's find out. Ooh, it's now on. I've been hit. Twice. 3 times. While we're waiting for more skeletons to come down, right, let's talk about our options for wanting to automate this. Well, we would want a very specific, dedicated brazier and stone hand setup. We could probably use this same skeleton spawner. We would want the spawner to be controlled somehow by redstone, right? The ability to turn it off would be important because we would want to stop at a certain limit, right? Either we don't have items to fill the slots, so we stop, or we don't have any more storage space for the soul shards. We could turn the spawner off by making an apotheosis upgrade. Let's see if we can see that real quick. Right, the apotheosis spawners have all sorts of different things we could do. We could make it redstone control by giving it a glyph of sensitive and a token of sorrow. Right, we haven't quite gotten into making glyphs from Ars Nouveau, but I don't think it's too hard. This might be something we investigate soon. Or we might be able to just turn it off by turning on lights in the room. Our next question is, how do we interact with the stone hands, the brazier, and lighting this when we're ready? There should be some entity detectors. We could wait until we see a certain number of skeletons in the chamber, and then when there is, we trigger something that can right-click on the brazier. Well, what things can right-click? I mean, we know that drones can, but we also know that modular routers can too. So I think both modular routers or drones could be an option for our automation here. But we still need a system that can tell a drone or the modular router to do its action, right? And that might be where some things we haven't done come in. Conditions on the drone to look for a redstone signal somewhere, or I believe there's conditions on modular routers that can also do the same thing. So that is certainly going to be a future automation that we investigate further. Well, looking at the time of the episode already, I'm not sure we have enough time to finish the golden apples. That's going to be the next thing we do at the very beginning of the next episode. Make the golden apples, we have to make the honeyed apples first, and then we can put them all onto our conveyor belt system and make the final piece to the engineer's project. And that will then allow us to go into a tomb and get our excavator up and running. So that should make a pretty good beginning section of the next episode. Right, looking at this is actually a much larger bottleneck than I thought it was going to be. We have all the gold and the enchanted ash and the soul shards and everything in here to make all of our arcane gold ingots, but it can only do 2 at a time, and it does take a bit of time, right? I could scale this whole system up. We could have like 8 of these things going, and then of course that would speed it up by 8 times. But I didn't feel like doing that because, again, we would probably want to make a whole dedicated place for it and everything. And again, this episode is basically the end. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed the episode, and in the next one, we will get that excavator up and running, finally. I can't wait for it. But for now, this is Merc Serene signing off.